All right, everybody. Welcome back to. Actually, hold on. I am underdressed. Welcome back, everybody, to another fun-filled episode of Pop Goes the Zebra. I am constantly being watched by the government. That is Agent Mulder, and you are watching Pop Goes the Zebra. Just kidding. We are doing what we said we were going to do. We're about a week later than we meant to. Just things kind of came up schedule-wise, so we took a week off. But welcome to Conspiracy Theory Day. We're recording this on a beautiful sunny Sunday, so you really can't see my tinfoil hat that well, but I actually spared no expense in making it. Welcome to it. There it is. I no longer have to wear this ridiculous thing. Jesse, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. Been looking forward. I don't need one.
Sure you do.
I know. There's not a whole lot up here for like the government to spy on, so I'm not worried about it. No, I've been really looking forward to this. I was bummed we had to put it off for about 3 or 4 days, but no, it's like I put more thought into like, oh, what other ones can we talk about? It's like, oh man, it's gonna be so fun. This is it's so weird because like people always want to shit on conspiracy theory things, but it's like they're so fun to talk about.
Well, there's a thing on that is it doesn't necessarily have to be something that exists in the real world. I mean, case in point, one of my favorite ones right off the bat has to be having to do with Batman, that Batman is just a figment of Bruce Wayne's imagination, and Bruce Wayne, after witnessing the death of his parents in that alleyway, the alleyway, whether you're a Batman fan or not at this point, it's got to be in every movie. But after witnessing his parents' horrible murder, he went insane and developed an alter ego in his mind in Arkham. And the rogues gallery that we see in comic books, television, and movies are just various members of the institution trying to help Bruce, and he has villainized them in his mind. And what he's seeing is not what's really happening. That's probably what a good one to start with. I love that one.
I have heard that one, and the more you put thought into it, the more it's like, well, fuck, that actually does make the most. Like I love it, and there's been shows to kind of play off of like that same principle. Like there was a show on ABC many years ago called Life on Mars, and the whole thing was like a guy was a detective in the 70s, but he kept having like these weird things that would be like, I forgot what it was, but he had like all these characters in the show. And then as it turns out, he was somebody who was a passenger on a spaceship on the way to Mars. And what the show that you experience was just like his fever dream while in like hibernation. So it's like, I love how like that same theory is like, oh, the events that you saw were really just like a fever dream or just something that was going on in the mind of somebody who was going crazy or somebody who was in a coma. And the whole thing with like my theory, it's a very similar theory, is the events of The Walking Dead are all in Rick's head.
That's a pretty good one. Yep.
Because he's in a coma and everybody that he encounters were either staff at the hospital, criminals that he had dealt with, it's just all things that were in his head.
The world is revolving around his stasis body pretty much, and his mind is painting a picture.
Yeah, and those are the kind of theories that like sometimes it's a very off the wall, like it doesn't really fit. Like if you stretch it, you could maybe make it work. Like the Batman one, legitimately, I think that is probably one of the better ones. Have you heard the one about the Rugrats?
I think I have. I'm going to let you tell it because I don't want to say that, because there's a couple of different ones floating around on the internet. I don't want to say the wrong one, but I think I know which one you're talking about.
The one where everything is in Angelica's head. That's the one where basically like Betty was supposed to have had the twins Phil and Lil, but she lost the child in childbirth, and because Angelica didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, her mind manifested twins, a boy and a girl.
Right.
Like like Tommy was supposed to have been like, God, I forgot what the whole thing with Tommy was, but it was like the theory was like really fucked up. But then, if you really thought about it, it's like, well, that makes sense.
Well,
That
that's why
makes sense.
conspiracy theories are fun, because the more you think about them, the more they make you go, hey.
Yeah, it's like, is your brain really trying to justify like the ridiculousness that you just read? Because I've read some like TV show conspiracy theories that were just way out there. I'm like, yeah, you're really grabbing for something, but
Are we?
are we though? I'm sitting here trying to think. There was one or two other TV show ones that I remember. Um,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer had an entire episode related to that. They did an episode where like one of the monsters injected her with a poison, and it made her hallucinate and think that people around her were also monsters, and that her dad was still around, that her mom was still alive, all this, that, and the other. And the theory was that her, because like everything happened where like she'd wake up in a hospital and her parents were there, and like her entire life up to that point, because this is, you're talking like season 6 of 7, so she's well established in her world at this point, and like they're trying to tell her that everything is a figment of her imagination. So the audience is left wondering, is this a lie or is it the truth? Was her time as this superhero all made up, or was this, or maybe she was crazy, and kind of like the Batman theory.
yes. See, I didn't really put much thought into the Buffy one. Like, it's been ages since I watched that show.
Such a great show.
But yeah, it's from what I remember watching just a few years ago, it still holds up for the entertainment
For its
value.
time, it was great. You couldn't get away
Yeah,
with it now. The jokes, somebody would probably get upset, offended, etc. But that's most good
blase
TV
blah.
shows from 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I think the trope of somebody waking up and it's like, oh, it was all a dream. I'm trying to remember what show originally did that.
It was
Um,
like a soap opera type thing.
no, what I don't think it was a soap
Or
opera. I know it was a comedy sitcom. Was it? I want to say, was it Bob Newhart?
maybe, because I
It was
want to say it
Newhart
was
or one of
called
those.
Snow Globe or something.
Yeah, because I remember there was a whole thing like it was like the Bob Newhart show came out after Newhart, which was the one where he
Well,
had like
sure.
the
Here's the
inn in
thing.
Vermont.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Even there, did Bob Newhart create that, or did he just make it famous?
That's
Because
why I can't remember if it was done before that. That's kind of where I felt bad I didn't do the research on it, but it's just one that popped into my head because I remember it was the whole trope of like the character waking up in bed and like, honey, I just had this weird dream
yeah,
that
and the wife is
I was
there.
an
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was an innkeeper and you were there and well, I mean, Wizard of Oz is probably the first example of that where Dorothy is, oh, I was in this magical place and you were there and you were there. Like,
and
I
I
think
have
that
no
might,
clue who you are.
yeah. So I that definitely, I think that's probably the first example of it. But I just remember my memory of like the Newhart show. It was either
well,
Newhart or Bob Newhart, one of the two.
well,
And they did the whole thing where the person wakes up and like, oh, everything that you just
yeah,
experienced for the last few seasons was a dream.
yeah, it's been done to death from that point forward. Everybody has their spin or take on it, but it's definitely been done a lot in the last 60 years of television.
Yeah, it's like the biggest cop out for we don't have a proper finish for the show. Oh, it was all just a dream. Yeah,
Yeah,
so you had brought up
I was
was
just about to say, I got something that'll absolutely mind fuck you to death.
because we had
What if
talked
I
about a
told you?
couple movie ones, and I was waiting for you to get to the movie
Well,
ones.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I don't want to blow my big stuff early. What if I were to tell you that the devil went down to Georgia?
That's okay. That's the other one.
he was looking for a soul to steal. Word has it he was in a bind because he was way behind, so he was willing to make a deal. Everybody knows that setup. Everybody knows how it goes. Johnny rosins up his bow. He plays his fiddle hard, and the devil bows his head because he knew that he'd been beat. However, a wonderful conspiracy theory I discovered on Reddit enlightened me. That wasn't the devil. That was just one of his demons. The devil threw the fight. He knew that it would be too time consuming and not worth his effort to play every single person in the world in a fiddle contest, especially when he starts winning them all and the story gets out. So what if the devil sent a demon in his place and said, "You are me, and you will lose this battle, give up the fiddle of gold, and let the story get out that the devil can be beat in the fiddle contest." We are led to absolutely believe that this is 100% plausible because there's a line in the song, and a band of demons joined in, and it sounded something like this. It's supposed to be a fiddle contest, and here the devil is openly cheating. So if the devil is willing to cheat here, is it not at all plausible, in fact, entirely likely, that the devil would not only set up this contest, but let the story get out that he's beatable? So now he's not winning just one soul. He's winning them all.
Yep.
All it cost him was one bad day and a fiddle of gold.
Yep.
If you can get it.
You dropped that nugget on me one night, and I didn't respond to you for a while because I was like, I had to sit there and like, I may have been at a show and I like ran that by several people and they all went, huh? And we were all just like, well, fuck, that actually makes a lot of sense now.
Why get one when you can get them all, baby?
Yep. It's
sucker people in.
You can lose a battle here or two, but you will still win the war. Oh man. So there was another one. I think we talked about another music one. I'm trying to remember what it was because it was another one that like I think you sent it to me at night, and I was like, nah, dude, I can't handle this right now.
Well, I could go back and look at our conversations and
yeah, good luck with that because like our conversation have long conversations.
Nah.
So like
let's see.
I feel like anytime there is a form of media, like especially movies and TV shows, like people want to shit on conspiracy theories, but I think that's what really helps make a show or a movie a lot more entertaining is when you can start looking at it from outside.
Well, I think I found it. I think I found it. It's the tried and true Hannah Montana conspiracy theory. Had this one having to do with Britney Spears not being a real person. Britney Spears is not a person. Britney Spears is an identity created by the record companies. If you go back and you look at all of Britney Spears' photographs, her body style changes. And I'm not just talking she's losing weight. That's fine, good for her if she is. The problem is her entire bone structure changes too rapidly and drastically between weeks for it to simply just be weight loss, liposuction, etc. Britney Spears is played by several people who look similar to the original image. However, it is not entirely her. There is probably a real Britney Spears, but much like Star Wars and the prequel series, there be body doubles. This is probably one of the few conspiracy theories that I am absolutely willing to foam at the mouth and 100% back up. People like Britney Spears, Shania Twain, which, by the way, when's the last time we saw Shania Twain? She does not exist in the public eye unless she's on a stage somewhere. There is not one single photograph of Shania Twain out in public anywhere in the last 20 years. Nobody has seen this woman. Then all of a sudden, a couple of years back, she shows up on the stage. Man, I feel like a woman. They hit the off switch. Back in the box she goes.
Well, the person she's married to is a recluse,
Was
Mutt Lang. Oh yeah, she was. They got divorced. Mutt Lang.
that
There's
was 10
only
years ago, by the way, buddy. That's plenty of time to get out there and move on with your life. Sorry.
yeah. Well, I just remember the whole deal with Mutt Lang was there was never pictures of him anywhere. There's like maybe one or two pictures in existence to prove that he was alive.
Oh, so one
And
computer program marries another computer program. How novel.
we've seen this. We've seen this TV show too.
Yeah. Shania Twain, Britney Spears, not a real person.
Avril Lavigne.
No, Avril's a real person. She's just a very real person.
I see. I heard this conspiracy theory that Avril Lavigne, the real one, died not long after some of her success and was replaced with it's like the Paul McCartney thing, where Paul McCartney is not really Paul McCartney.
Or Gene Simmons.
Yeah, like those,
Or the Ultimate
like
Warrior. That's
now,
a
like
good
the
one.
Paul.
My mother wholeheartedly believes that there are two Ultimate Warriors, and I vehemently believe that it's because somehow she saw the WCW Warrior thing or Renegade thing and bought that as the Ultimate Warrior. But she swears up and down that Ultimate Warrior was played by more than one person, and she's not the only one. I've heard that from multiple people. There's more than one warrior. It's the same warrior, but the conspiracy theory exists.
Yeah. The Paul McCartney one has always been an interesting one because like I've seen the photos of like early Beatles and then the Beatles from the 60s, and it's like, the guy that's Paul McCartney does kind of look a little different. Like it's not a whole lot. And then and then there's apparently like hints sprinkled throughout a bunch of the songs that Paul's dead. And so, like, I've always thought that that was an interesting one. Your Britney Spears one was the one I was like, when we talked about it, I was like, oh, it's like the 007 thing. Like, it's an inherited title.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's a guy's. It's an absolute guy's. It's not. It wouldn't if my Britney Spears theory is proper, then so is the Paul McCartney thing. So is the the Shania Twain. It's absolutely 100% plausible, and I think very likely. People need their
Yeah.
hey, you know what? A very near and dear favorite video game series of ours said it best. Every generation needs its icons.
Yeah, this is incredibly true. And if there's not one that just organically happens, you just create one and you have the ability to control it and change it throughout the years to make it fit the narrative. So yeah, changing Britney Spears every 3 or 4 years kind of makes sense.
Pretty soon it's going to be a reality TV show, The Search for the New Britney.
Oh man.
And it's going to be under the guise of who looks like her, who sounds like her. And they're just going to say, oh, well, it's fun. We're just doing lookalikes. No, it's kind of like the Rockstar movie. They're looking for the replacement. They're always looking for a replacement. So stand up and shine. I love that.
Yeah. So
Sorry. So check this out. In the 1950s and 60s, during the Cold War, the U.S. government was conducting experiments on a new form of biochemical medicinary that they had created. Pretty much it was the equivalent to what we would know later on to be the zombie plague. The government deemed that the plague was too dangerous to be tested on anywhere on the planet due to its very volatile nature and ability to get out and possibly spread and wipe out humanity. So they decided that in lieu of running that risk, they decided not to conduct experimentation on anything with the zombie plague anywhere on the confines of this planet. Thus, the space race was created because guess who else had a zombie virus? The Russians. So the space race heated up. Man went to the moon, Sputnik went up, the Apollo program happened, etc. Man walked on the moon, and for the next year or so, experimentation was done. However, the plans accidentally were leaked one day to a Hollywood writer. That Hollywood writer would go on to create the movie Night of the Living Dead. The Night of the Living Dead pretty much posted all of the information, at least the vital parts, like how to kill the zombies in case of a plague. This rendered the plague completely useless to the government because now everybody knew how to stop a zombie horde from advancing upon an unsuspecting populace. So not only was the plague deemed unusable moving forward, but it was now deemed unnecessary for further space exploration to happen. This is why we no longer have the ability or desire to go to the moon to this day.
Yeah, I don't buy any of that.
Well, I'm glad you don't, because I made it up completely. But somebody out there could easily believe that. You know why? Because it does line up timeline-wise.
Oh,
It
yeah.
absolutely lines up. The problem is people are fickle. They will believe anything.
Yeah. So my gripe with people in the moon landing conspiracy is, have you ever done a project with people, like 4 or 5 people, and like, hey, look, we can't really talk about this. Mm-hmm. And yet somehow that information gets out pretty damn quickly. Oh, sure. Okay, well, picture the scale of the American moon landing program and how many millions of people were involved. If we faked the moon landing, do you think any of those people would have been like, hey, just so you know, this isn't real? Like, yeah, it's a whole lot of people to keep quiet.
Yeah, I never bought into the whole moon landing not being real thing. I didn't get that deep into the weeds like you did, but the space program isn't nearly the hot button issue to me that it is to you.
Yeah.
I just tend to believe that we got there. It's pretty much we came, we saw, we realized there was no point to it, and we never did it again. At least at that point we did. Now there could be minerals up there that could lead to some sort of medicine that could cure any number of issues on the planet hitherto unable to be cured yet. It's always worth it to explore, but I could easily see the bureaucrats in the 60s and 70s saying, yo, the juice is not worth the squeeze right now.
And that's what it came down to, was the moon landing was not a scientific goal. It was a political, we want to beat the Russians and be superior. And that's all it was. Once we beat them, the public stopped caring. And once the public stopped caring, the government was like, and we're going to put money elsewhere, like Vietnam.
And if you want to hear more about this, you can go check out our special on the Apollo 13 mission that we did earlier this year. Go check that out for further details. Another conspiracy theory that kind of I enjoy it, not because of any belief in it. It's because they lean into it. My friend Shay sent me an article when I started casting my net out there for favorite conspiracy theories. She brought up the Denver airport and all of the conspiracy theories surrounding it, like the gigantic statue outside of it. It's a giant horse with gleaming red eyes. They say that it's like a nod or a reference to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and that there are secret bunkers at the airport that have ties to the New World Order, not the Kevin Nash version, but the actual NWO. But my favorite has to be the underground passageways. being like some sort of underground society, and you'll see footage of like people driving around on golf carts and they'll have alien masks on and stuff like that. Um, Another one is that the runways are shaped like a swastika, and that it has something to do with the Nazis, which I have not looked at the footage yet or the photo of the Denver International Airport, but I'm told that you really have to squint and really look for it to see it, which lends itself to the whole, the truth is out there. Well, Jesse's
Okay.
looking, which if
Yeah.
I'm looking,
I kind of have to at this point.
I am more, if I'm going to believe something like the secret society thing, I'm more believing the Freemasons than I am in anything else. But
well, that did not take long for me to be like, well,
Denver International Airport. Let's take a look. Holy shit.
Well, like I zoomed out and I'm like, oh, it can't be like, oh no. Yeah, that there's a little bit of merit to that one, as we have just discovered. It's like, well, so
I am absolutely speechless right now. I have no words that can describe my absolute shock and amazement, because I'm 100% open transparency. Most conspiracy theories I brush off almost immediately.
Oh yeah.
Looking at this, what do you know? There may be something there.
So you're talking about like the underground world, new world order. That was a topic of discussion a couple of weeks ago with a former supervisor, because it was a night where we couldn't go out because the weather was terrible and we had several officers call out. So we just stayed in the office and took care of dispatch calls. So we were watching movies, and I'd only seen the first John Wick, and so we watched John Wick 2. And the topic that we talked about was, okay, well, what makes you think that there's not this other society that's living completely analog, off the grid? Well, not quite like a secret, not like, well, it's like the assassin, like it was the, God, I forgot what the name of the fucking thing is, but it's like you show up to a certain place, you say a certain code word, and you flash a certain coin, and now you're being led to like,
kind of like that thing in, what was it, Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Fidelio.
Yeah. So like, that's something I fully believe that something like that actually goes on currently in the world. Like, I'm pretty sure there are there's like an underground society that is funded with like its own currency. Communication is all analog, it's not digital, so they can't really be tracked. And yeah,
so what you're saying is you believe in the lolly lule low, the Patriots. Who are the Patriots?
Who are the Patriots? Yes, like I fully believe that is a real thing. I believe that is a real
that are not in the know. The Patriots are the ensuing bad guys in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. They're a group of started out as a group of people in the 60s that wanted to carry on the will of a fallen comrade, and they ended up making a bunch of AIs that pretty much ran the entire world. That's if deep-seated conspiracy theory and espionage is your thing, go check out Metal Gear Solid and their take on what would inevitably be the Patriots, which is, in my opinion, just a stand-in for the NWO or the Freemasons.
Yep.
It's good. It's a little contrived at the same time because, not to get on that tangent, but clearly they did not have a plan very far beyond, 1 and 2. But I digress. Anyway, what's another one that's a favorite of mine? That Oh God, what was it? I got it up that the NFL is absolutely 100% scripted, and it is completely run by the mafia in terms of wanting to control the gambling trade. Which, if you've noticed in the last 5 years, what has been the big contributor? What's been the big talk? Bodog and what was it? The what's the one? Fightful, not Fightful. Help me. What's the big FanDuel? FanDuel's become a partner like that. There are some people that believe that it's all just rigged to make money, which, if
look at the
ever
casinos.
been before, what's the saying? The house
always wins. Yep.
You're talking
I was going to say
people that, one of our jobs is working in a manufactured reality. It is entirely plausible.
When you can recognize a work,
billions of dollars, billions and even trillions of dollars,
absolutely,
to make even more money. Star Wars. All those who gain power fear only to lose it.
Yep.
I should not have drank before I did this episode, because now I'm going to end up on some sort of a government watch list. Anyway,
yeah, no, that's one that I've always believed that any major sports, organized sports, are worked so that way it is to generate money. Except for hockey, that's real.
Hockey, and I was gonna say I watched UFC last night. For those again, pulling back the curtain, we're recording this on Sunday the 7th. Last night was UFC 268. I did not see a ton of openings where you could argue that it was a fix. But some people will say UFC is a work. It's just capitalizing off of the better parts of wrestling. I did not see any of that last night, but again, there are those that would argue that UFC is a work.
I've always said, for the most part, your major fights are all worked.
Lower
card.
I read the Paul brothers, right? That's the big thing in boxing right now, is Jake and Logan Paul are trying their hand at boxing. I have read articles and statements from boxers in the boxing world that have said to take a fight with those guys, either Jake or Logan, you have to sign an agreement saying that if you take this fight, you are agreeing that you are not going to knock them out in the fight. They are not allowed to be knocked out at all. They can go to the card, they can knock you out, etc., but you are not allowed to KO them in the fight. And some would say that the fight, I can't remember if it was Jake or Logan that fought him, but Floyd Mayweather had dude absolutely out on his feet, and there's footage of him holding dude up to make sure he doesn't go down. I'm not saying that all boxing is fixed, but I am saying boxing has its ties to organized crime too, going back to the 40s and 50s.
Oh, that's... You watch something going on, you'll hear people go, well, the fix is in.
Travis Kelce touchdown. Sorry, fantasy purposes.
There you go.
I am a fantasy football guy. I love fantasy football because it's the game within the game. I imagine it's kind of like the rush that gamblers get, like so-and-so is going to go off for X amount of this, that, or the other. It doesn't matter if so-and-so's team does this, that, or the other, so long as so-and-so does this, that, and the other. So,
yep. And, you know, I totally get the whole fantasy football, fantasy sports league stuff. I try not to do that because my brain's already overworked. So I don't want to have to like sit there and like worry about like how well somebody's doing. And
but once I got into it, I realized really it's just luck of the draw, because football is so crazy weird and potentially rigged that, you know, it's a crapshoot. It's really a roll of the dice one way or the other. But
so I kind of wanted to like segue to one conspiracy theory that I've always loved since I was a kid, and because it's like there's so many theories out there with it, and I think you and I have talked about it very briefly, and it is DB Cooper.
You know, I've said that I want to do a deep dive onto that, so I really don't want to get too deep into it now, because I think it warrants its own episode. But yes,
yeah, we would be remiss to not talk about it.
And where did he go?
Yeah,
to be, you know, we haven't really talked about it publicly yet, but we're going to take a break about mid-December to mid-January. One of the episodes I definitely want to do coming out of the break is on DB Cooper. So
yep. I have wanted to do that one.
Jimmy Hoffa, the Kennedy assassination, which there's a good one right there.
That's one I've been wanting to get to.
I'm not saying that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't shoot Kennedy. I'm saying that Kennedy's wife or Kennedy's workmates knew something about it. I 100% think that it was a work, because like not long after that happened, they completely revamped that whole area. So you can't even do ballistics on the spot to figure out whether or not there was a second shooter. You cannot figure out exactly who was where and when. It was completely screen wiped.
So there was an interesting documentary several years ago that really did a lot of research. They did what they could to do the ballistics and all this other stuff, analyzing what they knew, what they had access to. And the most interesting thing, and what they feel as though the most accurate depiction of what happened was that the assassination into the left was that Lee Harvey Oswald was in fact attempting to assassinate the president. However, with the nature of his skill and where he was not getting the kill shots. So in reaction to the vehicle behind Kennedy, the chase car, had a Secret Service agent with an M16, and he was not trained on the weapon. He was not trained on. Yep, he was not trained on the weapon. This is the vehicle behind Kennedy, not the driver in Kennedy's car, but the vehicle behind Kennedy. That whenever the Secret Service agent stood up to look around for where the shots were coming from, the vehicle started to take off, and he had his finger on the trigger and pulled the trigger. That's why the shot comes from low.
You're only smoking mirrors. Whoa.
And so anybody who knows ballistics, like, you know, if Kennedy had been shot with a rifle, his head would have not popped like a melon. So basically,
again, because I think that's another one that we could totally do a deep dive on, but I'll ask it.
I just wanted to cover that part, because I believe that it was an accident.
Yeah, if we're willing to accept that the Kennedy assassination was indeed a conspiracy beyond just a fanatic, if we're willing to accept that, the question inevitably at some point has to become okay, if it's a conspiracy, who plotted it out? Who's behind the conspiracy? Who's calling the shots?
Yep. See, that's the thing. Like, I feel like, yes, there was an absolute assassination attempt. Whether Lee Harvey Oswald was he contracted by the Cubans, the Russians?
Because
It's just
again, this is during the height of the Cold War. Arguably the hottest portion of the Cold War was the 60s.
Yeah. And so the big conspiracy is because this weapon didn't exist and he was shot by a Secret Service agent. That's why it was covered up, because they didn't want to say, oh God, one of our guys accidentally shot and killed the president while trying to prevent an assassination attempt. So I think that's where the cover up happened. Now, the whole deal with Jack Ruby shooting Lee Harvey Oswald, that really lends into conspiracy theory.
Baby.
Yep. It was, there's no way that this nightclub owner just felt like he wanted to be a vigilante, because, Lee Harvey Oswald was convicted of killing the president and a police officer, was being transported from a police station surrounded by armed police officers
out in public,
and this one in public on live television. And this guy somehow is a fanatic and wants to avenge the president. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I have never believed that. I believe that was
thing that needs to be mentioned against the backdrop of all this is conspiracy. I'm not gonna say conspiracy theories, but the thought of we're being lied to by the media, the press, etc. That whole thing was not prominent like it is now. You've got the fake news. You've got news outlet versus news outlet. Who's putting out the truth? That didn't exist in the 60s. It was widely accepted that what the media put out was the truth. If the media came to the television and said that little green men, robbed the bank, little green men robbed the bank. Didn't matter that it was a transfer of money between crime syndicates. The media said it, therefore it's true. Now, in our modern times, in the 2020s, we question what's being put on television and what's being put out in the media. That mindset did not exist in the 60s. So it is acceptable to question in 2020 thought process relating to something that happened into the 60s, whether or not something nefarious was afoot. It is reasonable to question.
Yes.
But again, that is a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. Again, there's a lot of meat on that bone.
Dude,
tomahawk steak.
You want to talk about? It's not going to be twisting my arm to do research on that one, because it's like, I just got to rewatch these documentaries again because they were great. I want an excuse to watch them again. Yep. I can't. It's gonna be our
which, oh man, what this I hate to cut you off and jump subject, but I don't have a ton of time left. There's a couple more I want to get to. The tinfoil hat has a lot to do with either the government is reading your brainwaves, which if they are, gross. I associated a lot with the other one being that aliens are monitoring our thoughts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to talk about space aliens. I want to talk about the reptilians, the insectoids, and the little green guys.
Crab people.
Jesse, where are you at on the whole the truth is out there spectrum?
Aliens exist. Aliens exist.
I am more towards aliens exist than I am towards aliens don't exist. I take more of a religious standpoint of the universe is far too wide and far too unexplored for it to be impossible that we are alone in the universe.
Oh yeah.
Because and again, not to get Bible thumper, here's where it gets fun. The Bible says, in the beginning, God created everything in the heavens and in the earth. Note, in the heavens. The heavens are generally described as in all creation. We have explored maybe 1% of our oceans, even less of our known galaxy. Mathematically speaking, whether you prescribe to the religious aspect of my argument or not, mathematically speaking, the math is too far in the favor of us not being alone, and that there being something out there that we have not found yet. The odds are too great that we haven't found it yet than that we're alone. To couple with that, my theory is not so much that we are it's not that we are incapable. It's the whole zoo theory that either aliens are watching us for amusement or aliens are watching us for fear, if they exist. I'm not saying they exist. I'm saying there's a likelihood they exist. I think that there is an argument to be made for us. Let me paint a picture here. The universe as we know it is like the cafeteria in a high school. You go to any cafeteria in any high school in America, it's going to be the same scenario. You've got the jocks here, you've got the science club there, you've got the goths here, you've got, you know, the fucking glee club.
Popular.
And then you've got that weird kid or weird group of kids that nobody wants to associate, talk to, or be seen talking to that sits over here. I think that we're the weird kids that nobody wants to include into the rest of society. Here's why. What is the number one gift of humanity? What is our number one trait? What is that one thing that just separates us from every species on this planet? Jesse, I'll do the footwork for you. It's simple. Death, destruction, disease. Those are our calling cards. Those are what we offer to the grand cornucopia of the dinner table that is life.
I was going to say greed and death.
Nobody does it better than we do. Nobody destroys better than humanity. So we have that. And then you have enlightened species out there in space. You think that these enlightened species are going to want to include the leper colony into their very clean, organized routine of existence? Would you?
No.
Absolutely fucking not.
So, capitalizing on that, there's been recorded evidence through the upbringing of man and up until like the modern era of aliens and extraterrestrial creatures being involved with humanity. But then you start getting into the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s where technology starts blooming. We have the nuclear weapons, wars becoming more prevalent. Then the alien visits seem to start backing off, as in like either they gave us the tools to start killing each other, or they witnessed us going down a bad path and were like, you know what?
So
these are crazy.
Couple of different I have a couple of different thoughts even on that. Okay, one is all right, so we accept that UFOs are a thing. What are the UFOs? To me, and this is me just kind of being lighthearted and cheeky, every society that has achieved our level of intelligence and beyond has to have joyriders and young punk teens. That is nothing more to me than little Nanu Xenu taking dad's spaceship and getting a couple of his buddies together and going joyriding into the next state. You know what I mean? To me, that's one possibility. The other thought I have on UFOs and aliens and things like that being real and the government not telling us about it, etc., is that the government inadvertently put themselves in a no-win situation. If the government comes out and says, hey, we knew and we didn't tell you because we didn't want to scare you, then the government looks bad. You know, they've lied to their people. They underestimated their people. If the government continues to lie and say that, you know, aliens don't exist, and we get in a situation like Independence Day where aliens show up and word gets out that the government knew and said nothing, if that happened, it would be chaos unequivocal to any point in human history. So
Absolute pandemonium.
the government takes this into consideration and decides, you know what, the odds of them coming to us are a lot greater, are a lot less than them coming to us at all. So, plausible deniability is the best course of action until something happens. You can always still say that no, we didn't do it, or know about it, but you never know. I think they know. I think it happened. I think that it continues to happen. I think that there's more going on than we know. Pay no attention, to use your Wizard of Oz statement, to pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yep. There was a really cute comic that I was going to try to find and send to you, because it kind of played into the little alien thing of like, you remember the whole thing, like aliens abducting cows.
Well, why wouldn't you? Cows are such fucking funny creatures and really delicious.
Well, so like it was this little funny comic of like a human talking to some aliens and like, why do you guys abduct cows so much? Is like, it's because our leader likes them. He thinks they're cute. And then there shows a picture of an alien leader with like pictures of cows and like a cow hat on. It's like, what if they just,
cows are to aliens what rubber duckies are to humanity.
Rubber ducky,
you're the
one. You say that as I'm wearing.
You make that time so much fun. Rubber ducky.
I'm wearing quack bang.
Rubber ducky.
I'm wearing a quack bang shirt.
Yep. But man, there are so many conspiracy theories and whodunits and things like that. I didn't realize just exactly how much meat was on this bone. Jesse, I think that there could be a part 2 to this episode down the line. There could be more to it. What you're wagging?
I have an idea.
Oh, you have.
There's so many of these. Why don't we dedicate one episode a month to our favorite conspiracy theories? Think about that.
We'll have to take a look at that because, like I said, we do plan on doing a break. About mid-December to mid-January-ish. It's something we could possibly do, because I think a number of times we are a pro wrestling podcast, but not necessarily a podcast about pro wrestling.
We do one a month, just like we did the Titanic for the anniversary, did Apollo 13. We could do, hypothetically.
I like the idea. I don't want to end up on a government watch list at the same time. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure that we're already on one.
Oh fuck, we already signed on the dotted line. They're watching us.
Yep. Basically, the FBI agent assigned to us is like, oh my God, these guys.
Shout out to Reggie, who's watching this, I'm sure. Hey, Agent Reggie, I hope everything's going well. Stay safe out there. You're doing God's work, etc. But Jesse, we are closing in on about an hour here. I think that now is probably a good time that we shoot out those words of wisdom.
Yes, the ever-growing words of wisdom. First and foremost, please do not try to go raid Area 51.
Don't do it. There's nothing there. That's what I wanted to talk about. There's nothing there. It is a smokescreen. I 100% subscribe to that theory that Area 51 is just the public face of the secret black projects that we do. If we know about Area 51, it's because they've already found another place that they do all of their top secret research. Continue.
Yep. But no, let's damn, I had a great little I was gonna do my same spiel and had a couple little things, and then I just completely lost my train of thought. Hooray. I should have had the tinfoil hat on, because like the government just rewrote my train of thought. No, we'll go with our typical don't add to our population. Please do not go to Dallas and subtract from the population.
Don't do it.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And
don't do it. It's unoriginal.
Yeah, no. And tomorrow I don't want to have to, come in on my day off because you did something really stupid. And
don't do it.
Oh boy, it's a mandatory safety briefing.
We just got daylight savings time. Some of us are still enjoying that hour extra sleep.
Yep.
And with that being said, this is the crew of Pop Goes a Zebra saying that the truth is out there. They're watching us. We hope everybody on Earth has a pleasant evening, and we will see you next time. Jesse, stay safe out there, my friend.